So we're continuing on with this example. So you've calculated how much money you need to get started, and then you've figured out where you can come up with money, and the total sources of funds should match the total uses of funds. So in here, in this case, it doesn't. We need to change that to 287. So we don't actually need 127,000 investment. We need just 27,000. Okay, so again, calculate how much you need, and then calculate how much you get from other places, and the difference has to come from equity investing from somebody. So for our plans, we're assuming that you're looking for equity investment, even though that might not be what you want to do for your particular situation. You're just trying to get this idea of how this works. So then, if we need 27,000 from external investors, equity financing, then we go back to the market approach and then we say we required external equity investment is $27,000. So if they give us 27,000 and the company is worth 300,000, that means that 27 divided by 300 is 9%. So the equity investor would get 9% of the company. So again, you get these numbers from your income statement, your pro forma income statement. We just keep these as the valuation multiples that are used in common practice. That gives us a valuation in year 5. We assume some return on investment that the investor requires. So if it's a relative that is investing, maybe they'll require less, so maybe we can lower that number. You could go down to 10. So for every $1 now, they want $10 later. Well, what that does is that makes the valuation, the current valuation of the company, much higher, because the value in year 5 is divided by a smaller number. So then we could maybe say, well, it's worth 600,000, the company. And then therefore the 27,000 from external equity investors is only worth 5% of the company. So that's the example of the market approach. This is something that you need to know. If you're not clear about it, please get a hold of me, and we can go through some examples for your own company. So the last approach that we're going to take for valuing a company is based on cash flows. And I'm just going to give a very broad overview of this approach and leave the details to another class. So basically, this is the approach that would be most like finance. So the approach that would be most like finance is that you have certain cash flows, and then you can discount those cash flows back to the present, and you can get the present value of those cash flows. One way to make this more detailed is to consider a couple different scenarios, like a successful scenario, a sideways scenario, and a failure scenario. Weight those scenarios, and then combine those weighted scenarios to one composite scenario. In step 3, you have to figure out what's going to happen to the company after it gets to a certain point after year 5, and so you kind of consider that the company will continue to grow after that point. We won't be doing this valuation, so I'm not going to go into detail about it.